If you were 2-7, you'd be in a bad mood too.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. And he hits the upright again. That's impossible.
Get your mouth shut. Get your mouth shut. Jerk.
The Bears' season's going to end on a double doink.
If Worms had machine guns, then birds wouldn't be scared of them.
Hey, how's everyone doing out there? Welcome to the Limp Ditkas podcast. I'm Pete.
I'm Ryan. Welcome to the Limp Ditkas podcast. We've got a big week for you. This is Thanksgiving week. Very odd Thanksgiving. Very odd Thanksgiving for the planet, but welcome week for Detroit Lions and Dallas Cowboys fans. But yeah, I should point out we are just a couple of Chicago pricks that are united by our hatred for the Chicago Bears and the University of Michigan football.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of Michigan State Spartans and unfortunately the Detroit Lions. And Pete over there is a lifelong fan of Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Dallas Cowboys. So I think the big breaking news we can jump into is the very first college football playoff rankings were announced tonight about an hour ago. We like to do our own LDP top 6, and I think we're going to have a very different list than what the powers that be came up with tonight. So I'll go over. I don't think you've been working, so I'm not sure if you saw the whole list, but I'll go over it. Of course, Alabama was ranked number 1, Notre Dame number 2, Clemson 3, Ohio State number 4, which we're going to talk about, I think. Then Texas A&M and Florida. So I went with basically my top 5 are the same as last week is what our LDP top 6 were. My top 5 were, or the top 5 that we came up with last week were Notre Dame number 1, of course, Alabama, Clemson, Texas A&M, Cincinnati, and BYU. I'm going to keep my top 5 the same as what we had. I don't know what your thoughts were about changing the rankings, or what would you think about this week? Not a whole lot happened with Notre Dame.
Yeah, not a whole lot happened, and then there were games I think that were canceled due to COVID and stuff like that. But I did say that if Ohio State beat Indiana, that since they were ranked 9 at the time, that we'd have to make a consideration for putting Ohio State in that number 6 spot.
You can call them Ohio. That's fine.
Yeah. Putting OSU, the Ohio State, excuse me, let me say it correctly.
Fuck that.
Putting them in the 6th spot. So I'm going to stick to that. Although, when you really look at that game, they had that thing in hand, and they really let it. Their defense has a lot to be desired.
It's not a typical Ohio State smothering defense.
And that game turned out to be a lot closer than anyone thought.
It was a fun game.
The way it was going. Yeah. So, again, they got shit the rest of the way, I think. They got to play Illinois this week.
Yeah, that would be the dictionary definition of shit.
Yeah, and that would be the definition of major upset if something weird happened there. But I guess offensively they look fine, which always seems to be the most important thing in college football, really, right?
Right.
I don't think any of us watch college football for a 10-7 game. We want it 50 to 45.
No,
but
I'll disagree a little bit with you there, but
definitely not 10-7, maybe like 28 to 24.
Well, there's a defensive smothering game that I'm going to bring up here in a minute that I enjoyed thoroughly. So, but I do enjoy the high scoring shootouts too.
Yeah. So I'm with, for me, I would leave. I agree with you. I would just leave. I would disagree with the overall rankings of like I would disagree with partially how the playoff bracket is currently sitting, but I would move Ohio State's 4 there. I'd have them at 6.
Yeah.
Then leave the rest of our stuff alone.
That's exactly what I did. Man, we are in lockstep on this. This is funny because if anyone has been listening,
we really don't agree.
Yeah, if anyone's listened to our baseball podcast, Major League A-Holes, that we've been doing for over a year now, we don't agree on almost anything, but this we've been pretty close. Our LDP top 6 all along. Because I swapped out BYU at number 6 for Ohio State. I'm impressed with Ohio State's win. It's funny, you'd never think that a win over Indiana would be an impressive thing, but Indiana's the real deal. I think the committee actually ranked them number 12 overall, and a lot of the ESPN pundits on the show tonight were kind of surprised they were that low. Even they thought they were giving Indiana even more credit than that. So that's that game. I mean, it looked like it was going to be interesting, and then Ohio State got out to a giant lead, and it was just like, oh shit! I was hoping for something interesting to watch on my Saturday afternoon, but Indiana came back and got it. I mean, eventually the game ended in 7. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. Indiana kicked the shit out of Michigan State, but I don't know really what that means. Is Indiana for real? Is that, I think they're getting some credit, and they seem like they're a legit team. So I almost think though, like the playoff committee gave almost too much credit for that win to jump Ohio State all the way to number 4 in the country. They're only 4-0, and their biggest win obviously is against Indiana. So I thought that was a little bit much. So, I'm happy with Ohio State at number 6 in our bracket. We mentioned bracket because the reason why we've been doing a top 6 for the past month now is I've always wanted to have a 6-team playoff. 4, I'm happy with 4. I've wanted a playoff my entire life. 4 is cool, but I think what would be even better is to have a 6-team playoff where the top 2, number 1 and number 2, get a bye, and then there's whatever the semifinal or whatever would be, the 3 through 6 would play just to get into the semifinal. So I'm pretty happy with that though. Other than that, the big news out of the college football rankings show was that Northwestern was ranked number 8.
The purple nerds.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw that game against Wisconsin Saturday night, but I keep using the term smothered, but they smothered Wisconsin. Wisconsin's offense had no chance against Pat Fitzgerald's defense. So they're an impressive team. They're 5-0, and their remaining schedule is Michigan State, Minnesota, and I think Illinois.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why they won't be undefeated, winning the Big Ten West and going to Indianapolis to face Ohio State with their own fate in their hands. So there's a very plausible scenario where Northwestern could be in the college football playoff. I mean,
playoffs?
Who would have ever thought of that?
I mean, I'm so the Big Ten's just such a tough call this year, just because of just no non-conference games.
Well, you could say that about any conference, though.
Well, I guess just other conferences seem better than them then.
I mean, that's all perception because there's no way to objectively measure that. So I think I agree with you, but there's just no way to define that.
And normally I wouldn't say that, because normally you would, in years past, you'd have a competitive Michigan team this year.
Yeah.
Michigan State would probably be slightly better than what they're doing at the very least. I mean, this is a transition year for them, so that's understandable.
The biggest indictment is you'd have a Penn State that would have at least one win at this point in the season. They're This is the first time in their history they've gone 0-5 to start the season. Like,
And
so
then
yeah,
and Wisconsin's only played 3 games. They're 2-1, and they
Right.
ended up being 16 in this thing even. So like it's just a weird year. So I guess you kind of gotta go with the flow. But like I said, I was watching Ohio State, and then shutting that game off for a bit and coming back to it when I was like, wait, Indiana's storming back here.
yeah,
Like I guess I get what everyone like everyone voting is saying about their like offensive efficiency. They are very efficient on offense. So definitely have a little bit better understanding of that now. So I don't know, we'll see. It could be, it'd be nice to have a few Midwest teams in along with the, if you had like a with the Southeast. I mean, that could be fun. So.
Well, Notre Dame is in as long as they run the table and including beating North Carolina on Friday. But they'll go to the ACC championship game and have to beat Clemson one more time. But
right, which then really screws up the top 4 because
someone's getting knocked out.
Yeah, I mean, you could say if you're going to say Clemson is 3 at 7-1 with their 1 loss to Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame's 1 loss to Clemson, you would say Notre Dame doesn't leave the top 4 either. Then,
yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out because I mean, you'll have several 1-loss teams at that point. So yeah, if their worst loss is against Clemson, I mean, it'd be hard to argue why they had beaten Clemson. Mind you, without Trevor Lawrence, but still.
I mean, and I also think it depends a little bit how that game goes too.
If
Clemson were to blow them out, then that's a different narrative.
That's a different story. But if it's another close, like even overtime game, that's a different story. But but back to Northwestern, I think if they run the table and beat Ohio State in the championship game, they'd be undefeated. You don't think of Northwestern as a playoff team, but you can't deny the Big Ten, an undefeated Big Ten champion, a spot in the playoffs. So I think they would be in, which is just crazy to think about. But
yeah, they probably would be in because right now, I mean, their biggest competition would be Cincinnati finishing off the season undefeated. But I think they get in over Cincinnati. Yeah,
they wouldn't have a win. They have nothing close to a win over Wisconsin or Ohio State. So but I thought it was cool. The football, what do they call it? College football playoff CFP rankings. They had Cincinnati at number 7.
Right.
So they've got potential if things blow up in front of them. So we could see a scenario where Cincy still makes it. But I watched a little bit of the game against UCF on Saturday. I don't know if you saw any of that. Central Florida is known for their incredible defense, and they showed it. Like Cincinnati struggled, but I mean they pulled it out on the road. So they're the real deal too. But they're just not gonna. If everything. Undefeated teams from big conferences are just they're gonna play over. They're gonna make it over a Cincinnati team that just doesn't play quite the same level of competition. And that same theme is really what crushed BYU. They were ranked 14 tonight, and we've had them in the top 6 basically all season because of their, just obliterating all their opponents. The problem is their opponents are, barely Division I opponent. So the committee really held that against BYU. They had the show tonight on ESPN had the athletic director of BYU on. Like they only have 1 game left. They're 9-0 and they have 1 game left. I forget even who they're playing. They played like Northern Alabama or some team last week.
Yeah.
So their best win, I think, is against Boise State, who I don't think is even ranked anymore.
No, they're not.
But they're pleading to, like with any Division I football team, like to play potentially 2 more games this season, like games that aren't scheduled at this point. They want to play on December 5th and December 19th. They're just putting an open call out to any team that will play them just to help boost their resume a little bit. But
Interesting.
I don't see the incentive for anyone to
And
do that.
there's no quality team that's going to play them.
Right. Why?
And that's what they need.
Anyone, yeah, exactly. Any team that would actually benefit them wouldn't be willing to do it. So I don't see how that's going to happen. Especially, I mean, Christ, it's November 24th. They're trying to get somebody to play a game on December 5th.
It's a trap.
Yeah. So I'm not sure that's going to happen for BYU, but
No.
it'd be. I mean, I love the idea that we don't even know what the schedule could possibly be now that we're at Thanksgiving. Like, it's cool. It'd be cool if they came up with something. I'm all for it.
It is that kind of year. So
fucking anarchy.
No, that's a Hail Mary. That's throwing up the Hail Mary on that one.
Exactly.
That's
about all I've got for college. Did you want to jump into the National Football League?
Well, I mean, the one thing I do want to point out now that these are out, Notre Dame went from playing an unranked team this week to playing the number 19th ranked team in the playoffs. So that lends credence to their continued playoff hopes. And North Carolina actually ended up in I think the AP, they ended up at 25 this week. So they cracked those polls too. So
is that in South Bend on Friday or?
No, I think it's actually there.
For some reason, yeah, I thought maybe it was in North Carolina, but yeah, that's gonna be huge. I love the Friday games after Thanksgiving. That's cool. I like those games anyway, but it's cool. It's a big matchup like that.
Yeah, the funny thing, they seem to have gotten away from. Yeah, they're at North Carolina.
Okay.
I was gonna say maybe it's at a neutral site because there's that one season like 2 years ago. I swear to God, they had like 6 home games and 4 neutral sites, so they really only had like 1 road game. It was so bizarre.
Wow.
And I was like that and then I go like, I get why people hate Notre Dame. Whenever that seemed like favoritism, I mean,
yeah,
to get to play 4 neutral site games in a season and still get to play 6 home games, that's like crazy.
Yeah, most of the reason I tricked you into creating this football podcast is so I could tell you all the reasons that I hate Notre Dame. So
well, I'm sure I've heard them all before.
Yeah,
so just from other people. So cool.
It'll be digitized and put into the history.
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to make note of that.
Yeah,
that's different from when we were last on because they weren't ranked anywhere. So that changes things a little bit. But
yeah, that's huge. I did forget to bring up the Michigan Wolverines.
Oh yeah. Before we get into the pros, please.
Yeah.
Please.
I jumped
they had it. Yeah, and I'll set it up for you, and then you can take it. Michigan was playing one of the toughest teams in the country this week, Rutgers. So they were really pushed. Oh wait, no, Rutgers is terrible.
Well, Rutgers beat up on Michigan State this year, but that doesn't say a whole lot. But
yeah, they beat up on Illinois too, so that doesn't say much either. So
you'd think a 6-year coach in Jim Harbaugh, aka the Messiah, aka the Savior, would have no problems with a Rutgers team, but that was anything but. That game was so much fun. I think my favorite thing about this college football season is just watching Michigan flounder. Like I'm not getting any joy out of Michigan State struggling or anything else, but the way just to see the constant expression of just pure frustration, constipation. I don't know what it is on Jim Harbaugh's face. Just you could just tell he just looks like he's trying to shit the whole time on the field. It's so much fun to watch. Michigan fans are freaking out. They actually celebrated a 3 overtime victory over Rutgers,
wow.
Like they had just won the national championship. So that shows you how far the Michigan football program has fallen. That it's like they're world beaters if they can take care of Rutgers in 3 fucking overtimes. So that's just been a blast to watch. I can't wait for the next Michigan game because it's going to be about the same. They did learn that Joe Milton, their previous quarterback that we've called arrogant and ignorant, they learned that he is not going to be their quarterback going forward. Cade McNamara is going to be their quarterback going forward. He had, I think it was something like Milton had 5 possessions with 0 scores, and then McNamara came in and had like I think they scored 5 times, like 4 touchdowns and whatever it was. But it's just clearly the difference in quarterback play was one of their major issues. But the defense is not looking like a typical Michigan defense. There's something wrong. There's just something fundamentally wrong with Michigan, and I love to see it. There's no sign that Michigan, the administration has any desire to get rid of Jim Harbaugh. So
yeah, I'm really kind of shocked by that.
Well,
I mean, I think maybe some teams. Is this just like one of those seasons where people aren't going to be held as accountable because of everything that's been going on? Maybe.
I think they're also very happy with him having no scandals, everybody graduates, and that's
right.
So, which is, that's noble, but is that what a historic program like Michigan really is hanging their hat on? Is they don't really care about wins and losses? They just want to graduate players and not have scandals?
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
You got to figure out a way to do both. And while Notre Dame's not been able to get over to get to that championship hump, they at least have had they made it to the playoffs.
Yeah, you made it to the playoffs
over and over again, more than a few times with
Michigan can't even win their division.
Right, exactly. So
they've never made a Big Ten championship game.
You gotta ask for a little bit more.
Yeah.
This is almost like the hiring of Robin Ventura at this point, not to switch sports, but we just want to have a nice, keep things quiet, not be in the newspaper for anything negative.
Yeah.
So we'll take your mediocrity. I think what this is going to define for Jim Harbaugh, if he cannot turn his time at Michigan around in the next couple years, I think he's out of coaching.
Yeah, where would he go? And there's certainly nowhere else he would go in the college ranks. I guess the speculation is that he just makes a better pro coach.
But he even wore out his welcome. He just wasn't. They weren't winning with him. Maybe he's just.
Well, they were winning because he got out of there right after the Kaepernick years. They had made the Super Bowl. I don't remember if it was a year after that he left. It wasn't long after they were in the Super Bowl. So he'll have cachet in the NFL. I think it's all bullshit. I think he's the charlatan that I've been saying he is all along. But I could, if he does have a future in coaching, outside of Michigan, which he's always said was his dream job, if he wants to coach anywhere else, I think it would have to be in the pros. But I don't know. I hope he sticks around Michigan because they'll continue to flounder. And by that time, if it goes on for a couple more years, State will have righted the ship under the tutelage of Mel Tucker, the bad motherfucker.
Right.
And maybe they'll be back kicking their ass again, including already kicking his ass this year, which is still amazing to me that Michigan State already beat Michigan.
I know. So, you have that.
I do have that. That's all we got. That's all we got in East Lansing. Well, I think that is officially the end of what I have for college football, unless you had anything else.
I have nothing left on college football. I think it's safe to float into the wonderful, as predicted, victory of my Dallas Cowboys over Minnesota.
That was an upset special, folks.
It was an upset special. I said, just take the points if you're a betting person. But I said, don't even take the points. Just bet them straight up at what was I believe it netted out at the lowest point and was a plus 220. So depending on when you got in, if you bet $10, you got $26 back. If you bet $100, you got $260.
Yeah,
Easy money right here.
Yeah, if you gamble, I think you people need to start listening to PV over there, because that was an easy one. An 8.5 point spread. You called it with a victory. They were covering the spread at the half.
Yeah.
They were in the lead by, I forget. They were up 17-6 at the half. So
yeah.
I mean, that was a no-brainer.
Yeah, it statistically, like I said, it was a very even matchup on both sides of the ball. And they slowed down the running game enough in the first half to allow them to win in the second half, even with Minnesota got the ball first and then scored right away. So everyone was like, oh shit, here we go again. But I'll tell you what, the red rifle looked like how I anticipated him looking as a backup quarterback for the Cowboys. He had three Pro Bowl years. He's not a terrible quarterback by any stretch. And they had a fourth to win that game. They went for it on 4th and 6 in the fourth quarter with less than 2 minutes to go. And he hit Amari Cooper perfectly on an out pattern. I mean, it was a fun game. The defense continues to trend upwards. And with that shitty division, if they beat the Washington Football Club on Thursday, they will have a half game lead and be in first place all by themselves, pending the results of Sunday's game. So, they're definitely trending in the right direction in a division that was never really out of reach for them, but they were looking so horrible coming out of the last Washington game after he was concussed. Or was that the Giants game he got concussed in?
Yeah, I think it was
the Giants game. And then they looked terrible against Washington the next week. But I think we're going to see a real different result this week. This isn't an upset special, but I see the Cowboys beating the Washington Football Club at home on Thanksgiving Day.
I like that you call them the football club, like they're a soccer team.
Yeah, well,
Washington FC.
Well, I'm telling you, Ryan, I don't want to offend anyone here, but I have to say a matchup on Thanksgiving Day of the Cowboys versus the Redskins has a bit of a more, real head-to-head good guy versus bad guy matchup than the Washington Football Club.
Bad guys being the Cowboys, obviously.
Well, I mean, you don't know.
Running over indigenous people.
Yeah, well, indigenous. Maybe that's what they should call this: the indigenous, the Washington indigenous people.
Yeah, I'll work on that logo.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yes, I did not say that necessarily the Cowboys were the good guys in this. In Texas, they would be for sure. But yeah. So,
well, speaking of the Washington football team, I think your biggest fear is they don't break the legs of your quarterback. Considering how many like catastrophic injuries have happened around that team, whether it was their own players or now the limpy of the week, Joe Burrow, the worst injury. We give out, kind of a gross award every week for the worst injury, and it usually revolves around the Washington football team somehow. And this week they destroyed the knee of the number 1 draft pick, Joe Burrow. I think it came out yesterday that he's got torn ACL, MCL, and other significant damage, which was kind of a cryptic, weird way to put that. But to say that his knee is completely fucked, which is, I mean, you hate to see it. It was really gross. Washington didn't do anything dirty on that play. It was just he got hit from behind and defender got blocked into his lower leg and just kind of exploded his entire knee. So I don't know though. There seems to be a lot happening with knees around the football team over there. So I'd be a little bit nervous going into Thanksgiving for you guys. But speaking of Thanksgiving,
your day. It's your day too.
Well, that's the thing.
My day. It's your day.
It's almost like this podcast was made for Thanksgiving, or Thanksgiving was made for this podcast, because we are Detroit Lions and Cowboys fans, and both teams have a strong and long Thanksgiving Day game tradition. It's actually like the only thing that makes the Lions interesting. Over the years, I keep hearing, like, from time to time, you hear people like wanting to take away the Thanksgiving Day away from the Lions. And I'm like, fuck you. It's all we have. Like, we have nothing else. Please don't take that away. Like, it's the only, I mean, not that they are necessarily great on Thanksgiving. I think their like history is 33-36 overall, but that's probably better than typical. So yeah, I am looking forward to the Lions game this Sunday. Lions tradition of playing on Thanksgiving started in 1934. I believe my first game I remember was in 1980. And I remember this clearly now because, of course, it came against the Chicago Bears. And this might be part of the reason I have had a lifelong hatred for the Chicago Bears. But in that game in 1980, when I was a 7-year-old, the Lions had a 17-3 fourth quarter lead, and I should have known and gotten used to it at this point, but they blew that lead. I've seen it many times subsequently in my 40 plus years of being a Lions fan. Blew the lead, went to overtime. I think I probably got some pumpkin pie, didn't realize the history of the Lions, or maybe it hadn't been established so brutally at that point, but I thought we had a good chance being at home in overtime. Just even if you lose the coin toss, we can just stop them on defense and have a shot. I believe it was Gary Danielson was the quarterback at the time. I love that dude. It may have been Greg Landry, 1980. I'll have to look that up, but unfortunately, I was not able to have much of my pumpkin pie before David Williams ran back the opening kickoff of overtime for a fucking touchdown and ruined my Thanksgiving, ruined the rest of my life as a Lions fan. I should have known at that point. I would see bizarre shit like that over and over again. So yeah, thanks, Bears. That just reminds me of other bizarre things that have happened on Thanksgiving for the Lions, including this week's matchup against the Houston Texans. The last time they played Houston on Thanksgiving was in 2012. You might remember this. All Lions fans definitely do, but it's a famous game in that the Lions, they ended up losing by 3. I think it was 34-31, but part of that was because there was a running play. Oh shit, I forgot. Justin Foster, I forget who it was, running back for Houston. Clearly tackled on the play, got up and continued the play and ran for like what ended up being an 81-yard touchdown. And of course, as everyone knows, all scoring plays are reviewed. Everyone knows that except for a coach at the time, Jim Schwartz, who threw a challenge flag because he was so pissed off that they didn't call the runner down. It was going to be reviewed anyway, because it's a fucking touchdown. So it had to be reviewed. But the rule on that, which I don't think anyone knew at the time, because there weren't any jackass coaches dumb enough to throw a challenge flag on a scoring play until Jim Schwartz. The rule ends up being he got a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty.
Yeah,
and they didn't even review the play because of that penalty. So it's something like where if the team requesting a review has a penalty that stops the clock, then they can't review the play. So not only
because it technically it's like a play was run or something.
Yeah. So not only did a touchdown get scored that shouldn't have been called a touchdown, it got scored because of our jackass coach throwing a red flag onto the field. So that's just the way I think of the Houston Texans on Thanksgiving Day. So what's already going to be the most bizarre, pretty shitty Thanksgiving. This is the first time I'm not going home or seeing my folks or seeing my mom this year. I think a lot of people are in that boat. A lot of people in Detroit are in that boat. A lot of people in Detroit have the tradition of, going to the parade downtown and then heading right over to the Lions game, and no one's going to that game. Obviously. So just a horrible year in general. We all know that, but I don't see the Lions shining any positive light on what's already a shitty Thanksgiving. So we'll see what they do. I don't know if the Houston's that formidable of an opponent this year, but Christ, the Lions got shut out last week. By the way, I need to stop for a moment.
Yeah.
For those listening to the podcast and not watching the YouTube video, I'm donning my paper bag with the eye holes cut out to speak about this past Sunday's Lions debacle, shameful Lions debacle that ended up being the first time the Lions have been shut out since 2009, I think. 20-9 loss to the Carolina Panthers, who were missing their starting running back, their quarterback. I don't even know who their quarterback was. Some PJ something. Some guy from the XFL that had no problem taking care of the Lions defense. Lions had a lot of injuries. Galloway was out, or Galladay, and DeAndre Swift was out, Danny Amendola. But, you've got your 12-year veteran quarterback that some people consider in the top third of all NFL quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford. He can't figure out a way to put even one drive together to score some points. So what the fuck, guys? I mean, so that's why it kind of doesn't matter how the Texans are playing. I don't see a whole lot of potential for the Lions. I do believe that game was so bad that if it hadn't been for Thanksgiving, short week, that the Lions would have been forced to fire Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. But since it was, a 4-day turnaround, you can't there's no way to figure out how to field the proper team without a coach or a GM. So the debacle that I think this Thursday will be, I think we will hear about Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn being fired on Friday. And I couldn't hope for anything more at this point. So that is way more Lions talk than we ever need to do again. So I will take off the paper bag and hand it over to you for your thoughts on your Cowboys going. Or I think you already talked about your Cowboys.
I talked about that. So probably want to talk about
the Chicago Bears.
The Chicago Bears and news coming out today. Rumor has it that little Mitchie Trubisky is going to be back at the helm this Sunday against the Packers this Sunday night.
Ooh.
They're gonna put him under the lights into the big show again.
Nice.
Against Aaron Rodgers and the unstoppable Devontae Adams at this point in time. Jesus,
that's gonna be fun.
That dude's catching everything. I just don't see it working out well. I think I'm gonna be bold. This is not an upset special. I'm gonna be bold and say that the Bears are gonna be under 500 after this Sunday evening. One thing to note too, I thought it was interesting that the Cowboys beat beat the Vikings, but that was something the Bears were unable to do, and the Bears are supposed to be that much better of a ball club and football club, and they're obviously not. So I think what's going to be it's just going to be kind of a bit of a beatdown this Sunday night by Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. I don't see it going any other way.
I can't wait. That's going to be a blast.
Yeah. So good TV this Sunday at 7:00. If you're looking for some locks in that game, there's a bet you can do for a player to score a touchdown. Just start putting money down on every offensive Packer player to score a touchdown, because that would be easy money. But
nice.
So
speaking of betting or whatnot,
or just general upsets you want to talk about, I have an upset special this week that in the course of the afternoon, I was not aware about this until 5 minutes before we were getting ready to do this show. That the team I'm predicting for the upset, which is the Thursday night game, it has gotten hit with a bit of a COVID bug.
Oh,
but looking at who the players are, I think it's
who are we talking about here?
Be okay. So I'm going to go with my upset special this week with the 5.5 point spread. But I'm going to say they won't need the 5.5 points, because they're going to win the game by 3, is the Ravens over the undefeated, due for a loss, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Ooh.
This game is the biggest trap game the Steelers have had all season.
Wow.
These two teams, Harbaugh is in the head of the Steelers, always has been.
The undefeated Steelers.
The undefeated Steelers. But when you look at it, let's go in between the lines here. Let's go in between the numbers. Well, you got another kind of not quite as close as the Cowboys, Minnesota, but from a ranking standpoint, Steelers have the number 4 defense. Ravens have the number 8 defense. What does that mean statistically in regards to average yards per game? That's a 23-yard difference. So we're not talking about much. Then when you look at them offensively, they're both in the lower half of football. Yeah. The Steelers have the 21st ranked offense and the Ravens have the 24th. Now, you said, okay, who got hit with the COVID bug is the question. And it's the Ravens backfield in Ingram and J.K. Dobbins. But they're not – most of their rushing nowadays is coming from
Jackson.
From Jackson. So they will be able to run and create offense that way. I'm looking at this. I know how these games normally go, and if you look back at it historically, it seems like the underdog always finds a way to win this game and upset the other team. That makes the second matchup between the teams like even that much more interesting. So my upset special this week, even with it's 10 players, but only it's 1 defensive lineman and the 2 running backs. They have I can't think of the name of the other running back. Sorry about that. But that they use somewhat often. It's like a 3-back field anyway. Again, they do not have a formidable running game this year out of their running backs. It's coming from Lamar Jackson. So that still will exist in the game. So,
well, we're recording this on a Tuesday night, so this is that's going to be an interesting thing to watch play out over the weekend. Is that the Thursday?
It's
Thanksgiving night game.
Thursday night game. So
oh my God! What? I mean, as shitty as Thanksgiving is, at least we've got the Lions to start the day. We've got the Cowboys in the middle of the day, and we've got a fantastic Thursday night game. So that's going to be fucking fun to watch. And if you're a bettor, I think you should listen to you're batting now 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, I'm perfect
after 1 week.
After 1 week.
Yeah, so PV knows his shit. The lead pipe lock of the week.
There you
your
go.
Upset special. I like it. Well, that's about all I've got for this week, unless you've got anything else.
No, I've remembered everything again on this podcast.
Nice.
It's just
Well, I've been forgetting plenty of shit, so don't worry about it.
baseball one I can't remember.
With that, I think we'll call it an episode. You can catch us at Limp Ditkas on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. You can catch us at limpditkas.com. We are part of the Wordhole Network. That is our made-up network between our football podcast here and our baseball podcast, Major League A-Holes, which you can find at majorleagueaholes.com and on all social media platforms. You can find our podcasts anywhere you can find a podcast. We're all over the fucking place. So check us out. Rate, subscribe, review. So with that, I think this is what they like to call, what the cool kids like to call dagger time. We're out. Peace.
Peace.